Welcome, new and returning listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blacksher, broadcasting to you live from the city of Diversity, Oakland, California, at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and at 7 p.m. East Coast Time. Sending air hugs out to my sister, the guru of mental health, Dr. Ashley Coleman, as we hope to see you back in the studio soon. We honor this month all women, all you beautiful sisters out there. We honor you this month in our lives, as this is National Women History Month. It is also Women of Aviation Worldwide Week. And this Sunday is Daylight Savings Time, March 10th. So set your clocks back and tick-tock. We also recognize the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and transatlantic slave trade. And I remember a person in Trump's cabinet once said that we came out here on a cruise ship 400 years ago. So let me correct that right now. We came out here in a slave ship, piled upon each other, dying, and just having a horrific time. And when we died, they just threw our bodies in the ocean. So get your facts checked. We came out here on a slave ship, not a Princess Cruise Line. And I think it was a black man, Ben, I can't think of his last name, but his name is not even worth remembering. He's a buffoon, an idiot. 400 years ago, we came out here on slave ships. And that's a fact, Jack. I will closely be watching the time today as President Biden's State of the Union address is on tonight after our podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us live via YouTube and Facebook, or catch us after the live broadcast anytime. Just Google, as written below here, Doug Blacksher and the date, and it will pop right up. Also, I'd like to say that we're going to be glad to have her expertise back on the show. Allyssa Victory, Esquire of Victory's Corner. That woman is so intelligent, articulate, and she brings political and other information onto the show to enlighten our viewers. So as she gives us the rundown on the early election results and status of California reparations. That's right, folks. Reparation. Every other race in this country gets reparation, and we can't even get an apology for being brought here over 400 years ago. And this reason why this country is the richest company in the world is because when you have people working for free, that means that you're pocketing a lot of money. So she's going to be talking about reparations today on an episode of Victory's Corner 2024. Hashtag Allyssa Victory, hashtag Victory for Oakland. Community Policing Advisory Board meeting. It heated up last night, and yes, it heated up. And the reason why is I had to let the Oakland administration, OPD, and the Community Policing Advisory Board, I am not here to waste my time. Oakland has been ravaged with burglaries, ravaged with crime, ravaged with violent robberies and assaults, ravaged with car burglaries and theft, home burglaries and theft. So yes, I made it clear last night that I'm serving my second term as a Rebecca Kaplan, vice mayor, and also uh, Mayor Shang Tao as an appointee. So moving forward, we want to also uh, thank Creighton Davis, who chaired the committee for the Community Police Advisory Board, CPAB. He served his second term, so he won't be uh, chair of the committee anymore. And I just want to thank him for his hard work to making sure that we got pop-ups, develop a relationship with the neighborhood community organization like a liaison. He was an outstanding member on the committee, and he developed a lot of great things. And we have term limits for the Community Policing Advisory Board. We need to have term limits for County Board of Supervisors. We got a supervisor that's been in there for 24 years. And how's that working? I guess he's got a big enough pension. We're going to be praying again for Jennifer Esteen, who is running against him. Moving forward, reminder to my audience to be sure to check out Brother Marcus Flowers of Georgia, a military veteran, and his run for Congress in Georgia. Please support him in his efforts in Georgia with a donation to his campaign 2024 via Act Blue, #Marcus for Georgia. And his website is listed below. And remember, Flowers for Congress. Showdown. What is the future of the United States of America? Do you? And vote blue. #Dump Trump. #Biden Trump. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you make the list this week? Thumbs up. A local organization called Helping Hands, and my sister, Alice Mohammed Scoggins, founder of Helping Hands, her husband, Lonnie Scoggins Jr., feeding the homeless for over 30 plus years. Feeding the homeless at Rainbow Recreation Center, located at 5800 International Boulevard in Oakland, California. Thumbs down. The United States Supreme Court, and not all of them, but some of them are scoundrel. And I'm going to tell you why. The one without a code of ethics and has members flying on private jets and sailing on the seas on mega yachts, selling small tract private single home to a mega millionaire. Yes, Thomas, we talking about you, man. A black man, you need to be out there representing instead of perpetuating what would be classified as a crime. Yes, and I say that with passion. You know, those folks that live above the law, like Donald Trump, ought to be ashamed of yourself. Shame of yourself. And you got a lifetime membership on the Supreme Court. That's horrific. There is no way in hell that I or any of you could do just a fraction, a quarter of what this man has done. Taxes, sexual lawsuit, and tendency to dehumanize people, including our allies in leadership. And as I see our special person back there, our guru of civil rights, our guru of reparation, and a magnificent, beautiful sister of color representing Sisters on Women's Month. Welcome to the show, Allyssa Victory. How you doing, girl?
I'm pretty good. Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Women's History Month. Can't believe we're already in March.
Well, I'm sorry to be a little bit late today bringing you in. I'm so fired up about what is going on here in the Bay Area, what's going on here in California and all across the country. But let's dive right into it. And audience, this woman, I heard her talk about reparation, and she has it broken down to the minute aspect of why Black people deserve. Yes, we deserve reparation. So diving right into the election, what is the tea that you have on early election results on our local elections here in Alameda County and the Bay Area, and specifically the race with Jennifer Esteem, as she was behind, but there's still tens of thousands of votes to be counted. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Election Day, Super Tuesday, was Tuesday the 5th. This is the March primary. So any race that has only one candidate you can vote for, if there's only two, it's going to be decided by this election. If there's more than one candidate and no one reaches 50% plus one, then the top two vote getters are going to go all the way until November. But it was really actually sad that in Alameda County, we only had a voter turnout of around 8%. 8% of eligible voters came out to vote, turned in their mail ballot. That was really low. It's definitely usually lower than the November general elections, but this was extremely low for the trend that we've seen in the last several years of voter turnout. There can be a lot of reasons. People weren't paying attention. People are strained by other things they're focused on, or people just feel apathetic, like their vote isn't going to change and matter. That's part of what we've talked about on this show before, of how important your vote is. That one vote can be the tipping point to elect one candidate or another that can pass a ballot measure over another. And the race that Doug mentioned between Jennifer Esteem and Nate Miley is for Alameda County Board of Supervisors. And there's 5 supervisors that control the county, our resources, our service deliveries. They get a lot of money that is from the state to deliver those services, and they represent hundreds of thousands of residents. They're still counting ballots. Alameda County Registrar of Voters is one of the slowest in the state. Our registrar also doubles as our IT person. So they're usually a bit slow in updating their results. There were several updates the night of the election, but there's going to be probably another update this week and going into next week. The results are not final until all ballots are counted and the results are certified to our Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. So they're still not final. The votes, we hope, will continue to go up for our sister, Jennifer Esteem, who has been a guest on the show, who ran a historic campaign as a progressive, challenging our longtime incumbent, Nate Miley, for the seat. She's a nurse. She ran on public health, on delivering services to some of our most vulnerable residents, including those that are in what's called unincorporated county, meaning they're not a part of a city. And so the county is their first level of government for all services, for all representation. Unlike me here in Oakland, where I have Oakland city officials, Oakland city budget, Oakland departments and services that work with Alameda County or that supplement the county. So it's definitely a race to watch. Again, we're waiting on results to be updated every few days now from the Registrar of Voters. Some other counties have finished already counting their ballots and they have final results, but it is not final. So there's still several races where the results could change the ultimate outcome as they continue to count those ballots. Um, uh, Hopefully, the turnout will be higher. There will be a runoff for the supervisor race in District 5, which is covering more of West Oakland, North Oakland, into Berkeley, Alameda, and Emeryville. There were multiple candidates because our longtime supervisor, Keith Carson, decided not to run for re-election. And so the top 2 in that race will go to November for people who live in that part of the district.
Audience, one of the things that I promote on this show is young African American people getting up, standing up, and showing out. And Allyssa Victory Esquire, you are the epitome of the now generation of leaders that we need: intelligent, articulate, educated, knows the law, and knows how to lead. So when you run again, I'm gonna be running with you, and I can't run, so I
Thank
might be
you.
in a wheelchair. So I
Don't
might
say
be
that.
rolling with you.
Don't say that, but I need all my elders, our whole generations, to work with me, support me. I appreciate it. It means so much, Doug.
Okay. And diving into the next question, what surprised you most in regards to the election result? Thank you.
I was definitely surprised by the really low turnout. Again, you only vote once or twice a year. It shouldn't be the only thing you're doing, but it can make so much change to know that there's people that are eligible, but such a small percentage took those 10, 15 minutes to do their ballot in California makes it very easy to do things like vote by mail or even register the day of was disappointing and very surprising. And that means that a really small percent of people are going to determine our election outcomes, are going to determine your next leadership for the next several years. And as Doug mentioned, people like Board of Supervisors, they don't even have term limits. So they could get into office and never get termed out, never have to resign or step down. I was also surprised by Barbara Lee's results. Barbara Lee is the congresswoman who represents Oakland currently. She ran to be the next U.S. Senator to replace our late Senator Dianne Feinstein. She ran as a progressive candidate. She ran as the only Black woman candidate in that race. And she ran on topics like calling for a ceasefire that are really important, mostly at the federal level, who can control our federal dollars and military being spent and used overseas in genocide and other violent conflicts. She was clearly been a champion from the start, has a history of leadership in the Black student unions, a graduate of Mills College here in Oakland, worked for Congressman Ron Dellums, and has made so much Black history. She did not make the top two. There's a Republican candidate, and the Democratic candidate is Adam Schiff, who will be moving on to November. So it's really just, again, shocking, disappointing that there has been so much organizing around ceasefire and the issues that she champions in this district, and that she didn't even win in this district, let alone in the state. So the final senator will be selected in November, but that was definitely one of the most surprising parts of the election. And those are pretty clear. And she has conceded that she won't be in the runoff.
Well, one of the things, audience, I want to share with you, and we got some questions over here in the chat. Perhaps Lisa, Allyssa will run again in Oakland, and I look forward to seeing that because uh, right now, with the expertise that you bring to this show, talking about, we only had 8% turnout. And I got to say this, Black America. One of the reasons, and the main reason, why Black people do not have park services in our community, do not have clean streets, do not have good policing, do not have the things that you would find in an affluent white neighborhood. The main reason is because we don't vote. So a politician's not worried about giving us what we need so we can take our kids down the street to the park because we don't have any control because we don't vote. So please, 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 please vote, vote, vote. Call a friend and vote. Act like you're going to a concert that day. Act like you're going to a barbecue that day. But if we don't start voting, we're going to get what we got, and that's very little, very little. Diving into the next question, Allyssa, what are you looking forward to in the November elections? Because 8% is is disheartening, extremely disheartening. Thank you.
Yes. Well, hopefully, some people will realize that they could have made a difference, made a change. We'll make a plan to actually vote in the November general elections. Again, some of the March primaries, the top two will be going to November. I'm most excited about the city elections. Our city elections in Oakland are ranked choice and they only happen in November. There isn't a primary. And so all the candidates will run for seats like city council, school board, and we're going to see what happens because there is an effort to recall Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao. And it's clear under our Oakland City Charter rules that if their signatures qualify, that will be placed on the November ballot as well. So there's a lot to watch in terms of city level elections and politics that will be coming up on your November ballot. Again, hopefully more people turn out to vote, inform and educate themselves about the candidates or the measures before November gets here.
Let me ask you a question. If she is recalled, how does that work? Can you tell our audience what is a recall? And if she is recalled, what happens then? Thank you.
Absolutely. The recall is basically removing an elected official from office. It will be phrased as a ballot measure of yes or no, should this person be removed. She was just elected November 2022 and inaugurated January of 2023. So she's been in office a little over a year now. She previously served on city council and then as a city council staffer. But if the recall is successful, it will be put on the ballot. Voters will then vote yes or no whether to remove her from office or recall her. If she is recalled and the majority of voters vote yes, then our charter says that the council president will be interim mayor and there'll need to be a special election, which will likely take place in early 2025 to finish out the term of Mayor Tao, which ends in 2026. So it would trigger some additional moving and shifting, and there would be a special election where candidates then have to run on the special election timeline on a special ballot that's not your regular March or November elections. That would just be to make sure that we get a new mayor. And again, they would only serve out the rest of Mayor Tao's term until 2026. And then they would go back to the regular November cycles in 2026. That's what that means. Again, they're still in the signature gathering phase, but it is something to watch for. And certainly if it's on your ballot, to really inform yourselves before November. And again, there'll be other races like city council that could potentially affect who that interim person even is as well. Our current council president, Nikki Fortunato Bass, is actually one of the candidates for supervisor in District 5 that I mentioned. She was the top vote getter, so she's going to be moving on to the November election this year. And if she becomes supervisor, then she will vacate her council seat, and there would need to be a special election to fill her council seat in Oakland District 2. So there's a lot of kind of musical chairs going on, people shifting positions. The elections will be determined by you all as the voters. Just to answer the question in the chat of how do we get term limits for Board of Supervisors, their term limits are determined by the county charter. So we would have to amend the county charter itself to impose term limits because right now there are none. You can run indefinitely. Doesn't matter how old you are, how many times you've run, and people again have kept those seats even to the point where they're still in the seat once they pass away, and there has to be special elections to replace them.
You know, I'm in deep East Oakland, and I supported both you and Shane, and I've shared this with the mayor's office. A lot of people in East Oakland are rallying to recall Shane, and we're not talking just Black community. We're talking a lot of people are rallying to recall Shane. So I really hope that she takes this recall serious. I know Madam DA Pamela Price, she has a kitchen meeting crew. She is putting out a lot of literature outlining the work that she's doing in the DA's office because the DA's office, audience, let's be clear. Pamela was the first elected person in what, over 50, 100 years? Allyssa, do you know?
Yes. I
And
think 100.
oh,
Usually they just appoint someone in the interim and they run unopposed. So there's not even a real choice for voters, or that person's already been appointed and anointed by the previous DA. So again, Pam challenged the sitting DA for the first time in 2018, and then the DA did not decide to run in 2022, and Pam was one of 4 that ran for the seat.
And also, the previous district attorney, Nancy O'Malley, was alleged to have used her office to help her campaign, which is an ethics violation. Can you explain that, how that operates, Allyssa?
Yes. I mean, again, the district attorney is an elected official. Their office is a part of the county, right? Their whole budget, their computers, their equipment comes from the county. Their time is considered, public time. That is our time as the public that they serve. So there shouldn't be any campaigning that happens during their work time that employees who support them are doing during their work time. They shouldn't be sending emails or anything for their campaign on their work computers or their work emails. And so there was an investigation about employees that were supporting the previous DA, Nancy O'Malley, using basically county work time and resources. That is ethical violation. It's, again, using our public dollars, our public time to support a particular politician. Our public time and money shouldn't be used for campaigning. Definitely to register voters and that type of political work, but not for any one person or yes or no on any ballot measure. So that's, clear across the state. Is definitely part of our county law. And so to see law enforcement, again, violating some of their own ethics and laws has been concerning, and part of why DA Price ran and won on a platform that was calling out some of the changes that need to happen in that office. She is facing a recall herself. The last update we have is that signatures have been submitted. Our registrar now has the duty to review those signatures and determine if they qualify to put a recall on the ballot. So similar to what we've seen happen thus far is what process is happening with Sheng Tao. The signatures needed are a lot less because it's city level versus the county level. And our county also had a lot of problems with our charter. We also have Measure B to amend our county charter to comply with state law because we had 100 years old provisions that couldn't be implemented. So that's looking like it's going to pass at the county level. Again, City of Oakland's charter is very clear and already adopts state law. So there's less confusion about the timelines and what would happen if the recall qualifies.
And, I'm going to say this, where's the NAACP fighting for Pamela Price, who is the first African-American woman in the history of the county district attorney's office, Alameda County District Attorney's Office. So I'm disheartened to see that they aren't out there leading the charge to fight this recall for Madam DA, Pamela Price, first Black African-American woman as district attorney for Alameda County. And this is the one I want you to, because you are a guru on reparation. So what is the status of California reparations? Because as we know, if it happens here in Oakland, California, it's going to be a wave across the United States. So let us have it in regards to reparations, what it is, where it is right now. And I believe there's a Black woman state senator, who's fighting for that too. Thank you.
Reparations. We just got out of Black History Month. Anyone who studied any part of U.S. history or Black history understands the many harms, civil rights, human rights violations, exploitation, literal violence and terror that has targeted Black folks, from our government to everyday citizens, without any punishments in this country for decades, for generations, and has even built the foundation upon 300 plus years of enslavement of African peoples here. Reparations is about repair. It's about repairing all of those harms. There's a lot. There's a long list. There's many years. There's all types of nuance to it. Someone put, yes, redlining in housing and banking, absolutely. Again, financial disenfranchisement, wealth disparity, wealth capture, literally taking people's property, taking people's money, again, exploiting our labor, using our free labor for decades and generations without any type of payment. There's been so much taken and stolen from Black folks in this country. Reparations is supposed to repair that harm. And it's very hard to quantify because it's happened for so long. There's been so many denials. There's a lot of people who don't even know the full history or extent of some of these abuses and violations, and they're continuing today. Go ahead, Doug.
And say that word again, because white people say, "Oh, y'all just want to get something free." It is to repair. Reparation
Yes.
is to repair. Thank you.
It's to repair, it's to restore us, right? We didn't come here poor. We didn't come here unhealthy. We didn't come here disparate. We were forced here. We were kept in these conditions. We're continued to be kept in unequal spaces, unequal access, unequal services, as Doug even mentioned, of even political disenfranchisement. And those were things that our state has officially taken positions on and studied. So several years ago, we established the Reparations Task Force for the state of California that was led by various legislators that worked with community organizations, with other advocacy groups that have been working on reparations for a long time. They hosted town halls that are all publicly available on the Attorney General's website. They did studies, they collected data, and tried to quantify some of the harms that we're talking about. Some of the specific categories of harm include environmental racism, racial terror, economic inequality, and income disparities. Political disenfranchisement, as I mentioned, is its own category. And they put out reports and recommendations on all these different categories. We can drop the link in the chat to the official state of California's reports from this reparations task force. And so just studying it, just documenting it, just getting input is not reparations, right? That's not repairing. That's just making the case for it and trying to assess how much needs to be repaired. We're now in the phase of what does reparations actually look like from the state of California. Just last month, the Legislative Black Caucus in Sacramento released a package of 14 bills that are aimed at starting the actual work that the state needs to do to repair. Um, there's still a lot of uncertainty, things that are not that clear from their proposals. Um, I have some critiques of the proposals that have come out, especially how detailed and thorough the studies and the data and the input were of what people want to see reparations look like. And so I'll tell y'all now that the legislation is not matching the demand from the Black community.
I am so glad that you are able to articulate that, why we need it, what has the slavery, Jim Crow, lack of political power just recently within the last, decades, half a century or even a century that we can vote, how we've been bullied. Uh, and as I said before you came on the show today, we had a Black man who worked in the Trump administration, Ben, I can't even think of his last name, but he said that we came over here on cruise ships. And that shows the ignorance of some people, of many people in this country who would rather be ignorant to the fact that we came over here as slaves and and the harm that has been done to our community, to people who look like you and me, Allyssa.
Yes.
If I had 50 white folks working, if my great 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 grandfather had 50 white people working for him for free, I'd have generational wealth right now. So for you unintelligent people who continue to uh, say, "Oh, well, you guys is okay and everything is all right," that shows of lack of intelligence and it's shameful. You ought to be shaming yourself. Last but not least, what are the pros and cons that you see so far with the California reparation? Because it's going to be a fight to make it right when you're dealing with white folks. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people need to understand the pros and cons of this reparation that Black people are hoping to receive in the state of California and hopefully all across the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, so I kind of preface that already the legislation that we're seeing the Black Caucus introduce doesn't fully match all of the findings and the data on all the different harms. Again, there was like clear categories of harms like political disenfranchisement and no kind of legislation to respond to some whole areas that were in the studies and the task force reports. Some of the pros are that they're proposing property reparations for people who've lost property, homes, businesses due to unlawful government takings, things like eminent domain. I know these might sound like legal words. An example is if the government decides they want to build a freeway, which they did build many through Black thriving communities. They can say, we are going to take your property for the benefit of the public who needs to use this highway now. And y'all just have to move. The land belongs to us now. We don't care how long you've been there. We don't care about the historic importance. You're supposed to receive just compensation for the value of the land, and many folks did not. Again, there was a targeted campaign to displace and destabilize many strong Black communities by building freeways through them. And now some of the areas, are toxic and have led to environmental racism of the people that are still around there. So that's just an example of what I mean by eminent domain. So there is a proposal in the current legislation to provide property reparations. Um, there is proposals to ensure food access and security for people who are on Medi-Cal. There is a proposed acknowledgement officially by the state and an apology. Those may be good for some people. That's not good enough for me. That doesn't repair our folks. I don't actually even need the apology. We need the tangible resources that can change Black people's material conditions, right? Our ability to survive and to thrive, to educate, to have political power, to have housing and stability, to build generational wealth for our businesses to thrive. So all of the things that we talk about here on the Black Business Roundtable, right? We don't just need an apology for the things that have been done. We don't just need an acknowledgement on paper. We don't need words. We need actions. So the cons are that it's still not very action oriented, that it falls very short of repairing all of the specific harms listed in the task force's own reports. Many people are upset that there is no direct cash payment, literally putting money in Black people's pockets, helping us with debt freedom. There's high student debt. I would know as someone who's gone to law school and undergraduate who had to depend on financial aid and loans to get there because I'm a first generation student. And many people, again, who've lost wealth, who've lost so much, who've lost years of their life due to incarceration, cash payments can help to make that reparations. There are no cash payments being proposed at this time. There shouldn't be any qualifiers. Again, just providing certain benefits to people on Medi-Cal is not reparations for Black people. The only qualifier should be Black, right, to receive it. That even Black folks that may be well off, they still come from history of disenfranchisement, of harm. Even if one generation is doing better, that still doesn't mean they have generational wealth. It still doesn't mean their children will be set up for success like other non-Black families are. And so there shouldn't be qualifiers on anything besides this is for Black Americans. This is for Black Californians, people who have a history, whose families have suffered, who have lost. Some of the bills, again, are very vague and kind of just lay out principles, but not exactly how it's going to be done. Who's going to pay for it? They don't have timelines. It's already been years that we've just been talking and studying and doing listening sessions. right? We're trying to move to action. And unfortunately, the way history has shown us, actions are going to take a lot longer to get to agree to. And there's going to be constant attempts to water down even the small things that are being proposed. Because to me, at least, reparations requires an entire upending of our current systems, our economic systems, our criminal legal system, and our property systems, education. It's, undoing the status quo, because the current status is inequality. It is exclusion. It is anti-Black racism. It is keeping folks in poverty and ignoring that there's a clear racial disparity to so many of our social issues. And so reparations is a challenge to that. It should make people extremely uncomfortable. It should change up the entire way that we're doing things going forward so that the harms don't continue. Because Black people continue to be disenfranchised in business, in education, in health, in their own economic opportunities, in education. And so there's a part of it is reparations to repair, but also there has to be a complete changing of our systems so that it does not continue moving forward. So there's still a lot that I know our Black community on the ground is pushing forward that doesn't agree with our Black legislators. Our Black legislators are a minority inside of the entire state legislature. Again, it's not going to come down to just those few Black legislators voting to support it. It is going to come to majority white legislators agreeing. And even that is problematic in itself, of having non-Black folks approve and agree of what Black people deserve and what will make us whole and repaired. So I will just say there's a lot that y'all can get involved in, can push on, can push your specific representatives to support and to ask for more, and to ask for some of these specific things that are already missing in what's being proposed, including things like cash payments directly to Black Americans. There are, in the smaller cities or counties that have been studying reparations. San Francisco did issue an apology. And again, that's not changing material conditions or paying anything out. So I don't know who's repaired by that apology, but they've done it. Alameda County has a reparations commission that will be providing its own recommendations. So the conversations are continuing, and I encourage everyone to be a part of them. But the action is where we're going to need the most people power, the most loudest voices in the room, and people to be unapologetic about what Black folks have gone through and what needs to happen from our government to repair those.
You know, I knew your father, and I know, and he passed away. I know your stepmom, and they must be so proud of you. I every time you come on this show, I learn so much, and um, I don't know how much time you have, but I've been following a story regarding the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how there is a group of do you have a few minutes where I can just
Yeah.
bring it to your attention so that okay, it's called, I'm pulling it up right now. It's called, and I commented on this on both my Facebook and um, LinkedIn page. What is diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI? And I put down there is what most companies proclaim to have, but don't. There's a group of Black civil rights organizations that are rallying to counter anti-DEI rhetoric. Can you explain to this audience what DEI is, diversity, equity, inclusion, and how companies don't enforce it and now they're fighting against it? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. DEI, I feel like it developed a lot strongly maybe a decade or so ago when I was still in college. I helped to create a vice chancellor of diversity, equity, and inclusion position at my alma mater, UC San Diego. And it is kind of, as you said, it's very like corporatized way of talking about racism, of attempting to address racism or appear to. So diversity, equity, inclusion, it's mostly centered around race, but also can apply to, gender, sexuality, and basically allowing more folks that are not white men into spaces like universities, corporations, and axis of power. And it is under attack because it is trying to, again, undo white supremacy. It is trying to ensure that people have equal access, that people, once they access these spaces, are actually included. It's trying to acknowledge that there needs to be diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of what people look like and where they come from to make these businesses, these universities, these corporate spaces thrive. And that, again, is upending the status quo of what has been in place for many decades, where we have predominantly white universities. Again, that I learned about this first in the education context, and a lot of people were using international students as a replacement for actually bringing in Black students or Latino students. They said, well, we're diverse because we're just going to bring in international folks who, one, are paying international tuition and still a part of that corporate agenda for some of these schools to make a lot of money, to only admit students that are considered elite or come from privilege, but not to actually diversify in terms of people who are low income, people who are first generation like myself, people who are Black and who are brown. And so there's already been a watering down of what DEI is supposed to do, and it's really getting at anti-racism and anti-oppression, anti-white supremacy practices. And it was supposed to really shift the way that these structures or businesses or schools operate. And there's been now a huge backlash against it, against even the words, against any trainings on what they mean. It's similar to how we've seen backlash against ethnic studies as an educational discipline, which I also hold a degree in. Also against critical race theory, which is a specific line of academic work in law, right? It's for lawyers, for people in law school to study how the law itself has played a part in creating or maintaining racism and racial inequality in this country. And so there's been an assault and attack on knowledge, on truth, and on attempts to, again, change our structures to basically be more fair, to be more equal, and not necessarily reparations, but to stop doing the harms that are making the calls for reparations.
All right, audience, you heard it here on the Black Business Roundtable. I'm going to give you a name: Charles H. DeBow III, President and CEO of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, and Ken L. Harris, President of the National Business League, a not-for-profit trade association for Black businesses and professionals. There is an attack on Black people in this country, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. They are saying that we have enough Black people in positions of authority, which is a lie. It's not the truth. So be sure to follow. Once again, his name is Charles H. DeBow, President and CEO of the Black Chamber of Commerce, the national branch. We need to be aware of these attacks on people of color. We need to start voting, and we need to know what DEI is, because that's people go, what's DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Allyssa, it has been a true pleasure having you on the show today. Your Victory's Corner is educating and breaking it down to the nitty gritty. There is no meat left on the bone when you get
Can
through
I say
talking.
one last thing?
Oh, take it away, please.
Again, I just want to wish everyone a happy Women's History Month, Black Women's History. Again, some Black women were winning big in our local elections. Some, disappointingly, were not supported enough, like Barbara Lee. I am going to become a mother myself, so I may be taking a short break from Victory's Corner while I adjust to my new life to my new baby, but I am bringing another strong Black woman into this world, into the Oakland community. So you'll probably be seeing and hearing a lot from her when she's here. And thank you, Doug, for coming to our baby shower and supporting me and my family personally. I also want to give a shout out to a woman I met today in North Oakland, Auntie Frances, who is a Black Panther who's for 16 years has been feeding people, just feeding people, organizing fresh food to be distributed on 61st Ave in North Oakland at Driver Plaza. She had music, they had books, they had clothing. People were coming to get coats, were coming to get baby clothes, were coming to get toys, and to have a space to commune together. And she's being threatened by the city, by public health, because somehow it's a threat to public health for Black folks to be providing free food to each other when these are folks that are unhoused. These are folks that are poor and struggling. These are her own neighbors that may depend on this resource, since everything around there were liquor stores, right, where there's not fresh produce and healthy options. And so she is asking people to come out again to Driver Plaza on 61st Ave in North Oakland this coming Tuesday at 11 a.m. to support her. But also, if you know people who could use those resources, she hosts this free community giveaway on a regular basis. And I was just so honored to be invited to come see the work that she's doing, to meet another Black woman who is simply working to serve the people of this great community in Oakland. So shout out to all the Black women, shout out to Auntie Frances, and please support her if you can, or at least go and visit and check out the work that she has been doing without a lot of support and help from our city government, and is even trying to fight back them trying to remove her from doing work at this public plaza.
Allyssa, I'll talk to you off air, but these are the types of things in Oakland that's going on. You need to be out there chasing criminals, cleaning up the city. There's a
Yeah.
friend of the yeah, they're hurting somebody who's helping people. That
Yes.
is unbelievable. There was a site at 8055. You know where Denny's is on Hagenberger down the street from the Oakland Airport? Well, where Denny's
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Why don't you go down there and clean up? That's a health issue.
Exactly.
Do you think
Like public
there's a
health is all of exactly the encampments, the trash, the hazards to our community, people going without food, without clothing, to be trying to harass or intimidate someone who's giving those things out for free and bringing them directly to the community so it's easy. When I was there, it was mostly elders, right? Folks that can't travel to different cities or across the city to get free resources or to a county building or a city building, but it's right there in their neighborhood. So it's very disheartening to know that she's up against this, but sounds like she's a warrior and she's ready to fight. So I'm happy to join her in that.
um once again we'll talk off air, but the mayor's scheduler has reached out to Kim and I to set up a meeting. And please give me this information because I want to make sure I share this with the mayor when we schedule this meeting, among other things, which includes 8055 Collins Street, a Black owned business. He housed 20 other Black businesses in there. And it looks like a third world country going down that street. I think you know what I'm talking about. When that street where Denny's is, a side
Yes.
street. So thank you again for coming on. Congratulations to the baby.
Thank you.
And to
Next
my brother
time,
Kamara.
you'll have baby
It,
victory with me.
yes, yes, yes. Congratulations, Mama. No wonder you over there glowing. There's nothing
I'm
like seeing
trying. Got my
a
last few
black.
weeks to go. But thank you
Well,
again to
I
Black
tell you
Business
what,
Roundtable and to you for being an awesome host.
we look forward to seeing you when you come back. You always got a place on this show. Thank you again. As we close out tonight, our deepest thank you to Mr. Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.News for the honor, Donnie, of the Black Business Roundtable being part of your growing network dedicated to bringing the real unfiltered news before the news in Black America. Hashtag BlackUSA.news, hashtag Donnie Glover. Continue sharing hashtag Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, NC 2022 and hashtag Justice for Enzo, the husky, the family pet that was dragged through the street by Lodi police and animal control in front of the community and neighbors in that city. You ought to be shaming yourself, Lodi. I hope we continue to boycott them to let them know this was unacceptable behavior by the services that they pay for in Lodi. If you want to be in the know and reach our audience, then join our BBRT advertising family or to be a possible guest on the show. Reach us via our email, and that's BBRT2021@hotmail.com. Include your company name, address, website, company phone number, and social media page info to our email address, BBRT2021@hotmail.com for vetting consideration. Audience, I'm going to say this before I wrap it up. In Oakland, at the Community Policing Advisory Board meeting last night, which I have to take 2 gabapentin and 2 1-800 ibuprofen to sit through the meetings, but I feel it incumbent that I do my best to save our city. People and businesses, residents and businesses are leaving here like it's a sinking ship, and when a ship starts sinking, it's like rats just start running off. People are running out of here by the grove. I'm humbly asking the administration of this city to quit your in-house fighting and let's work together to save the city of Oakland, California. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 7 p.m. East Coast Time on the Black USA Network on YouTube and Facebook. Audience, thank you for tuning in. And remember, together, not apart, but together, we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blacksher, Allyssa Victory Esquire, and Dr. Ashley returning soon of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless and good night.